Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming channel brave enough to say that something with a Marvel logo on it is bad.
That means we got the real cultured taste. With our tactically calculated expert fiery take out there, we just gotta sit back, two hands behind the head, kick it, let the YouTube views crash in on us like a wave.
So we're not the only ones surfing that wave right now, because apparently even Marvel's Avengers publisher, Square Enix, didn't care much for the 2020 game that released with a lot of bugs, a lack of content, and of course, as Lawrence and I discovered, Steve Rogers' wandering eyeball.
At this point, it's almost so busted it's fun. So I kind of fear the moment when they do drag it back to functional, because I won't get to see Cap's I won't get to see Cap's eye pop out anymore. Holy moly, that was amazing. These surprisingly honest and direct comments on the game came directly from Square Enix president and representative director Yosuke Matsuda in the company's 2021 annual report issued to investors.
Matsuda opens the report by describing the difficulties the company navigated due to, you guessed it, the global COVID-19 pandemic, before celebrating the launch of Final Fantasy VII Remake and noting that the pandemic accelerated their customers' shift to buying games digitally.
And then the thing that almost never happens, an honest and no-spin acknowledgement of a less than optimal product. Matsuda writes, quote, "I would also note that Marvel's Avengers was an ambitious title for us and that we took on the games as a service model. We overcame a variety of unexpected difficulties in the final phase of the game's development, including needing to transition to work from home due to the pandemic. We were able to surmount these challenges and release the game, but it has unfortunately not proven as successful as we would have liked. Nonetheless, taking on the games as a service model highlighted issues that we are likely to face in future game development efforts, such as the need to select game designs that mesh with the unique attributes and tastes of our studios and development teams. While the new challenge that we tackled with this title produced a disappointing outcome, we are certain that the games as service approach will grow in importance as gaming becomes more service-oriented. How we go about creating new experiences by incorporating this trend into our game design is a key question that we will need to answer going forward."
So there's some very interesting statements that could use a little context here from Matsuda. For starters, just how much of a bomb was the game? I really want to know how badly it bombed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do, especially those that, want a really fun Marvel's Avengers game, want it to do well, and want to keep playing, want to keep seeing their little costume guys beat up robots, we don't have any sales numbers, which is typical when a product undersells, but industry analyst David Gibson estimated sales at 3 million based on Square Enix's budget shortfalls in November 2020.
Yeah, that's really bad for this massive, massive brand that definitely costs a lot of money to license, and a game that seemingly took 5 years to develop. So for comparison, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales sold 6.5 million copies as of July 2021, and it launched 2 months after Avengers and is only on the PlayStation platforms.
So while that doesn't look super great, the Play Avengers subreddit did recently spot the game ranking in on an NPD sales chart. And that ranking seemingly implied that the game could have made a recovery in sales since launch. But it is, I think this is kind of a case of skewed data. This specific chart by itself doesn't really tell that story, the story of a recovering sales. So this chart is for the 12 months ending August 2021, which would include September 2020, or Avengers launch month, and the 11 months that followed it. Now, out of that specific period, Avengers sold the 7th best.
Okay, yeah, so if you skip forward a month, so the 12 months ending September 2021, Avengers drops off the chart. Or put another way, without Avengers launch month, it is not in the top 10 game sales for the year following its launch. That indicates that sales did not rebound in a significant way.
The game's launch performance also tells a not so great narrative. It topped the NPD sales charts in September 2020, which is good, but also wasn't facing the stiffest competition that month, beat out releases like Super Mario 3D All-Stars and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
Dropped like a rock shortly thereafter. I remember seeing a lot of news about this, ranking 14th in October 2020, but still outselling 2018 Smash Bros. Ultimate. So 1 month later, and it wasn't even doing that anymore, dropping to 18th behind Smash Bros. And Luigi's Mansion 3. By December, Marvel's Avengers dropped out of the top 20, and it doesn't rank in on the top 10 selling games year to date for 2021. Interestingly, Spider-Man Miles Morales actually does.
So yeah, all the evidence points to a pretty weak landing for Marvel's Avengers. Bizarrely, interestingly, this isn't the first time Square Enix has expressed public disappointment over games that land around the 3 million sales mark.
Yeah, they turned a few heads in the early 2010s by saying that games like Sleeping Dogs, Tomb Raider, and Hitman Absolution failed to hit sales targets despite selling millions of units. Even weirder, Crystal Dynamics' own Tomb Raider sold 3.4 million at that time.
Though even still, I guess at a AAA budget, 3.5 million is just not going to cut it, especially if you're dealing with a brand like Marvel. So even still, this level of candor is pretty different from other game companies that just simply don't say anything or provide very curated numbers when they're talking about projects that underperform, especially to their own investors like this. I mean, it's great from our perspective, from news reporting, it's fantastic. But you know, if you work for Crystal Dynamics, maybe that doesn't feel so good.
On that note, Matsuda indirectly refers to Avengers developers Crystal Dynamics when describing, quote, the need to select game designs that mesh with the unique attributes and tastes of our studios and development teams. So I guess this kind of means no more games as service projects for Crystal Dynamics, which sounds right. I mean, maybe they should never have done it in the first place.
And Crystal Dynamics is a great developer. They've been operating for decades and have a legacy of great releases. Most recently, the most recent chapter in their story, they've been developing Tomb Raider games since Tomb Raider Legends back in 2006, which was them getting put back onto Tomb Raider after it kind of got... Anyway, weird history there. That 15-year run from 2006 includes the rebooted trilogy that started in 2013, mobile titles like Lara Croft Relic Run and isometric action games, Guardian of Light and Temple of Osiris, the Lara Croft series. So they've been all over the map, made tons of different kinds of games, all kind of under the Tomb Raider banner, but they've all been pretty good and received well and seem to have sold pretty well, except for that first one.
And though they're all Lara Croft Tomb Raider branded, Crystal Dynamics output had been steady and of generally high quality. Then there was a 5-year gap in the release slate, and then Marvel's Avengers came out in late 2020.
If you take Square Enix's comments at face value, they're basically straight up saying that the game's quality suffered because they imposed a games as service design on a studio that wasn't well suited to make it. Which I find crazy. They actually said it out loud. Like, that's exactly what people accuse EA and Activision of doing to all of their favorite studios, like EA with Anthem or something like that. Square Enix is actually just straight up saying it out loud, and nobody seems to be mad about it. It's weird.
It's interesting because they've acknowledged the internet, and honestly, the internet, this is what the internet was saying for months. They were saying, well, they forced the games as service model on Avengers, that's why the game is bad, and I think gamers have been vindicated. So maybe instead of shouting, we were right, they were just like, they shrugged their shoulders and go, yeah, I guess that's true. Gamers are weird, Lawrence. I don't know. I can't tell you what gamers do.
Fair enough. Maybe everyone was an adult about it. They were like, you know what? They said it. They said it out loud. Okay. And it is kind of stating the obvious at this point. Yeah, you don't need like a microscope to see what happened there. So one way or the other, Square Enix is admitting the L here while reaffirming that they're going to still try to figure out that whole games as service thing. There doesn't seem to be a strong indicator of that in their upcoming releases, though, so I'm not sure what form that's going to take.
Yeah, it's possible we'll see some incorporation of that model in the Platinum Games developed Babylon's Fall, though since Platinum doesn't really have a legacy of developing games as service games, it would really be an odd move, and by the way, a very bad move, given Square's comments on Avengers. So similarly, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin is in development from Team Ninja, and they don't have a legacy in that games as service model either, so maybe just don't make it games as service.
There's also the open world action adventure game Forspoken, but Square describes it as a, quote, thrilling, story-led, action-packed adventure game. So that also seems kind of unlikely for a games as service fit. They say that they need to do it to make the money, but, you know, the products aren't there yet, which, you know, again, to their credit, good for them for not forcing it. Aside from Avengers, I guess.
Aside from Avengers, where they fucked it up. Oh, and Final Fantasy 16 is not even included in the report. So have fun waiting for that one until you're a skeleton.
Yeah, there wasn't even like a promotional flyer for it at the end where all the other upcoming releases were. Dang it. Well, anyway, it's not all doom and gloom if you like seeing people in colorful clothes punch robots, because the long awaited Spider-Man expansion is finally releasing for Marvel's Avengers on November 30th, 2021, exclusively for PlayStation platforms.
The announcement trailer doesn't show any gameplay, which is probably not a red flag. But yeah, thanks to the fact that corporations can own the idea of a guy in spandex that does cool flips, the quote, with great power expansion will only release for PlayStation owners, or as Nick Munzo says on YouTube, quote, with great power comes great exclusivity.
So the trailer's going over pretty well on YouTube too. 6.9 thousand upvotes and 440 downvotes. Figured might as well include that while we can see them, you know? That's a ratio of 94%. pretty good. Decent views too. It was sitting at 823,000 at the time of writing, which was only, I want to say, just a grip of hours after it was published. So it's same day, and it's going to hit 1 million. So that's good stuff.
As we had previously alluded, it's been more than a year since Spider-Man was announced for the game, with PlayStation announcing the wall crawler, but offering no release date on the PlayStation blog back in August of 2020.
Not actually a ton of information about what will be included in the update either. Still, the most recent developer blog posted on November 3rd says, quote, "You'll experience Spider-Man's story through unlockable challenges woven through the Avengers initiative." I don't know what unlockable challenges are, but maybe, I guess, adjust your expectations accordingly.
Go over there and kill 20 robots.
Spider-Man needs you to kill 20 robots. You did it. Now the robots are red.
But to be fair to Crystal Dynamics, they pushed a few updates out over the past year at a regular pace. Kate Bishop joined the game in December 2020, Hawkeye in March 2021, and most recently the War for Wakanda update, which was a big update, introduced Black Panther on August 17th, 2021.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe Spider-Man's arrival will give the game a fresh little lift. A bunch of players rushing in there, beating up all those robots. On PlayStation, at least, it is exclusive. The constant appearance of Spider-Man Miles Morales on the NPD charts, another PlayStation exclusive, certainly show that PlayStation players really like the guy, so maybe there's some good platform crossover there.
Everyone's going to really like the guy here in about a month because the movie's coming out. And when the movie comes out, so they've got to release this expansion around the movie. They have to, because they're going to get a big boost for the game. So, and if Marvel's Avengers finds a good rhythm and stabilizes well, that'd mean it did what basically every other successful games as service game has done.
I was thinking about this. The only game that seemed to have really just hit that wild right out of the gate was Fortnite. But every other game, like games of service, just seems really hard to do right, especially the first time. Most of the games that are really good and stable and successful now, like Destiny, Rainbow Six Siege, even Dead by Daylight, felt like it was a little rocky in the early days, but they didn't launch in the best shape. It was just with, with a lot of willingness to stick to it and iterate through patches and add content to the game. So with any luck, Crystal Dynamics is just in that uncomfortable middle phase where they're trying to find their footing right now. Maybe Spider-Man will bring a surge of players, more revenue, and the opportunity to create bigger and better updates.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, honestly, we're always pulling for them. Crystal Dynamics is a great developer. They deserve success. So, but the most recent content roadmap shared by Crystal Dynamics in early September did not include any content updates past the winter season. So, is the Spider-Man update the last for the Avengers?
Maybe, or maybe it's one of those things where we release Spider-Man, and if we don't get 4 million people in the game, we gotta close it up. So we hit that spider button, we see what happens, and then we decide whether or not we get to keep the lights on in the Marvel's Avengers wing of Crystal Dynamics.
Wouldn't that be weird to be working there and be like, all of my career and money and my family rests on Spider-Man?
Come on, Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to put on us. He's just a little guy. He's got to make it to his date with Mary Jane. We can't put that weight on him.
Well, Lawrence, now's the time when we ask the audience questions that I don't know if they ever answer in the comments. Do you think that Marvel's Avengers is deader than Uncle Ben?
This is a classic YouTube technique. It's supposed to encourage engagement. Do you think Square Enix killed Avengers because they were greedy? I mean, kind of the answer is yes, right? But I guess they said it, so.
It's funny because we say the word greedy here a lot on this show, but we also talk about how every fucking developer is a business and they have to make money. That's what everybody does. They make money, guys. I'm sorry. That's the way it works. They're not out here making video games for fun.
Yeah, it makes sense too because in elsewhere in the comments, Matsuda talked about how Square Enix needed to develop recurring revenue, something other than that giant brick of cash you get when a game comes out and then it's nothing, it's a ghost town. So plays into that. It's smart business decisions, I get it, and Avengers was such a good brand to try and work that with, but it seems like every publisher makes that play. They get their big brand, EA with Star Wars. They say we're going to turn this into games of service and it's going to make money until the end of time. Makes sense on paper, very rarely executes well in real life. Very, very weird. Very weird.
Lawrence, I've got a switch they can flip, and they'll never do it, but I have it right now. Here it is. Are you ready? 'Cause this is, and I promise you, this is actually the answer. You make Marvel's Avengers free to play. That's what you do. You make it free to play, and then that's why Fortnite succeeded out of the gate. Apex took a little longer, but again, that's free to play, and Apex is now exploding. And that has always been free to play. And I've been saying this about Battlefield. They got to make Hazard Zone free to play. Call of Duty, Warzone. That's the switch you flip, but they're never going to do it. They're never going to do it.
You think games of service only really thrives when a game is free to play?
It seems to be the best way to get a lot of people in right away. It's free. They're never going to do it, but that's what they need to do.
I like the way you think, Bruce. It makes a lot of sense.
Free, free, free.
Yeah, give it away.